So today's session is on fundamentals of thematic data analysis and how we can integrate this thematic analysis in Atlas.ti. My name is Tony Matila, and I am a research training and development officer in the College of Graduate Studies, specifically in the School of Interdisciplinary Research and Graduate Studies. And I have projected our email address. Should you need to be in contact with us, please use that mailbox. We started with 2 sessions on a basic level, introduction to qualitative data analysis and introduction to Atlas.ti. And we are on the 3rd session, and you can see the lineup of the sessions that are going to come. So should you be interested in any of them, you can just register through the link that is provided. Now, just giving a brief overview for those who didn't attend the first few sessions, we touched on the role of coding and theme development, the importance of researcher reflexivity, and we compared qualitative and qualitative data, of course, looking into the role of researcher, the type of data, sampling, analyzing manually versus using the softwares Atlas.ti. In the second session last week, we introduced you to Atlas.ti, where we showed you on how to set up a project, how to load document, which responds to a part of organization, grouping the documents together. Now, today, the objective of today's session is to uncover these fundamentals and key concepts of thematic analysis. And those are the processes, the steps involved, consideration for ensuring that there is rigor and quality in your analysis process. And at the end of the session, you should be able to understand those key steps into analyzing data thematically. You should be aware of the benefits of using Atlas.ti for thematic analysis and the integration thereof, and also apply the best practices. So previously, we talked about the different approaches or types of qualitative data analysis. Thematic data analysis is one of them, which we will be zooming in this morning. There's a lot: content, discourse, grounded theory, phenomenology, and there's a lot of that. But then for the limitation for today's session, it's only on thematic, but then you may apply other techniques according to the type of analysis that you are doing. Now let's go back again and try to get an idea of what is thematic analysis and how and when should we analyze thematically. So thematic analysis is one of qualitative research methods for identifying, analyzing, and reporting patterns, which are themes. So the key is on developing these themes within a data. So when you are proposing that you will be analyzing thematically, we are expecting to see how this pattern, these themes have emerged within your data. And it is one of the flexible approaches that you can use across various epistemologies and to respond to your research questions. And I will elaborate on that flexibility. And it's also useful for examining the perspective of different participants and highlighting similarities and differences. Yes, so in thematic analysis, you are able to sift out those similarities, differences, and the contradictions among your participants or the documents that you are analyzing. So you can see that it involves this systematic organizing and interpreting of textual data. And I have underlined, bolded the textual. But in fact, you can, even in Atlas, you can analyze data that is textual, but also you can analyze the audio and the visual. So those who are doing media studies, they can analyze films or video clips, or even audios, whether it's a poem or a song and so on. So Atlas.ti allows you to do that. But I am saying this is much more than just simply summarizing the data, because with good thematic analysis, you will be able to interpret and make sense of that data. So when can you use thematic analysis? So when you are working with qualitative data, if you have done interviews, focus group, surveys, but then ended open questions, responses, whether you want to analyze documents or reports, and even literature review. And I'll touch briefly on literature review, because more and more researchers, more and more students, more and more supervisors are encouraging their students to review literature using Atlas.ti, and I'll just talk about it now. So you use it, thematic analysis, you use it when we want to identify common threads across your data sets, when you want to gain a deeper understanding of a phenomenon or experience that talks to the ontologies of your participants. Now, coming back to literature review. So, for example, when you are doing systematic literature review, there are a few steps that you have to go to search for those articles in databases, the appraisal steps where you have the inclusion and exclusion criteria. And I think those who are also doing content analysis can follow the same. But then where you have to synthesize and analyze, that's when Atlas.ti will help you. Remember, when you are doing literature review, sometimes you don't know how it will plan out. So analyzing this document in Atlas.ti, coding all these documents, you will then group the codes into the similarities and develop the themes, the patterns. So those themes will eventually be the headings within your literature review chapter. So that is how you can use Atlas to assist you with reviewing your literature systematically. And here I am basically saying you can use Atlas.ti in qualitative approaches because it is subjective in nature, and it can allow you, or it helps you to uncover these ontologies, these different experiences of your participants, the epistemologies, axiologies, and it can be applied throughout several paradigm positions like your constructivism, your interpretism, and the critical realism. So these are some of the paradigms that can be applied or can be linked with thematic analysis. And let me touch on the process. So in literature, you can see that there are 6 stages or processes for thematic analysis. The first one is familiarizing yourself with the data. And I will unpack this 6 stages. So you need to familiarize yourself with the data that you have collected. You need to, secondly, generate the codes, search for the themes, review these themes, define and name the themes, and ultimately produce your finding through the report or a chapter on presentation of findings. Now, how do you familiarize yourself with the data that you have collected? So after you have collected the interviews, you need to transcribe your data. And how do you transcribe your data? You convert audio to text. And usually in English, there are exceptions where for those who are doing indigenous studies, but usually in English. And this is how your transcript should look like. We need to see what you as a researcher is saying. So you need to transcribe verbatim, word by word. So when you are on the audio, we are hearing good morning. it should be the way it is on the transcript. So the transcript will show us what you were saying to the participant, what the researcher is saying, and what the participant response is. And you can also note, because when you are interviewing, there will be some notes that you are taking. You can also include them in the transcripts. Any other note, whether non-verbal cues that were there, you need to include them. So ultimately, this is how your transcript will look like. We will see what the researcher was saying, the response of the participants, and any other notes that were involved in this process. As part of familiarizing yourself with the data, you need to read and reread the data. So after you have transcribed, you need to go through that transcription, read it and reread it. And that is when you will note initial ideas. You will see how patterns are starting to come up. So this will be a first step. And I am saying it's also important to do member checking as part of research rigor and quality. And there are benefits to that. And sharing my personal experience, there was a study that I did. I was interviewing students who are deaf and hard of hearing, and I was using sign language interpreter. And along the interview, the participant was talking about shooting, and somehow I got lost. So I forgot to do a follow-up. So when I was transcribing, then this thing was not making sense to me. But then I transcribe and I make a note. Then I send the transcript to the participant. And I learned to understand that, okay, the shooting that they were talking about, they were shooting a film. So it was not attached to the gun or things that I assumed. And it really helped me. So if I didn't do this member checking, you can see the implications that were going to be there for reporting the findings. So it is very important to do member checking as part of promoting research rigor and responding to research quality. Now, how do you generate the codes? So you need to have a system where you can generate these codes. And when you are doing manually, you will, of course, highlight the quotation, the participant response. So in Atlas, you can also highlight it, and it will be linked to the code. You need to collect data to the relevant to each code, that those are the quotations. With Atlas, there's an option to use open coding or priority coding. So here I am saying, when you are proposing in your methodology, sometimes you propose to code inductively or deductively. So when you are coding deductively, you come with priority codes. But then when you are coding inductively, you will be guided by what you are finding in your data. But then how do you now generate this code? And I am encouraging you to read more on coding, on how you can code, because there will be 2 sessions after the next one that will be specifically on coding, because coding, it is an exercise that after you have done it, you are almost 85% done with analyzing in Atlas. So it is important to know how to code and how to code correctly. Now, I have a short video for you that I'll play for you about coding, but then also make sure that you read more about coding so that when we do those 2 sessions on coding, you have an idea of what coding is. And for those who are established researchers and have coded before, just bear with me a bit. Okay. So then after you have coded, the next step will be to search for themes. So you will collate the codes into potential themes. And how do you do that? You look for a relationship between the codes and group them accordingly. And in Atlas, we can there is a function where you can group these codes, which can ultimately be your subthemes, basically. Yeah. So this is how the themes will develop based on the codes, their similarities, and so forth. And I'll give you some examples on how you can do that. So as I've said, if you are done with coding process, you are almost 85% done. What you'll need to do is then group the codes, develop the themes, and develop the links and relationships among the codes with the code groups and the themes. Then after that, you will be done with analyzing in Atlas. Then you will be able to start with reporting your findings. So say you have an interview and you ask your participants, tell us about yourself, just as an icebreaker question to build rapport or to understand your participant better. And when they are responding to this question, they may tell you that, hey, I have 10 years of experience working in a mine, and I did honors in this field and MBA, and this is the position that I hold. I'm earning so much and so much and so much. Now, you can see that, okay, ultimately, these variables, these codes can lead to being a theme on background or profile of participants, or background and participant of background and profile of participants. So when you are coding, because it is always starting with the code, you will take that's a particular segment where they are talking about qualifications and code it accordingly, saying this is qualification, this is work experience, this is this designation, and so on. And when you are grouping these codes, there can be the participants' background, and the ultimate theme will be the profile of participants. So you see, you will develop these codes accordingly, then group them together. And that's how your theme will develop. Or when they are talking about recommendations or things that can be done, you will identify these codes, different codes, and you will group these codes accordingly. So where they are talking about things that needs to be done in terms of research, you can group them together as future research recommendation. If they are on practical interventions, you can also group these ones, and for best practices and so forth and so forth. So ultimately, you will have this theme for recommendation, which can be broken down into sub-themes, linking them with the codes that you have developed. And here I was saying for background and profile, you can, depending on what your supervisor, the conversation with your supervisor, you can put it in a table form just for the reader to see all the participants, their age, sector, qualification, and years of experience. Yeah. And when you review these themes, because you will code, you will group your codes, and then you have to develop these themes. Sometimes you will label them, and you can come back later and change the name and so forth. So you need to check if those themes, they are related to the codes. And what I normally ask students to do, and by the way, this you can also do in Atlas. You can do a thematic map where you can see the flow of your themes and the codes and the code groups, and it will be easy for you to link accordingly in Atlas.ti, and this will help you to refine these themes and the relationship between these codes and the code groups as well as the theme. So ultimately, the last step will be for you to refine the naming of your themes so that you can be able to tell us a story. And by refining, you'll also look at the order in which you will present. For example, you might have a theme on recommendation, but looking at the flow, it won't be it's not recommended for it to be your first theme. So the last step will be for you to check in these specifications and how you can place this theme so that your story flows. And you will ultimately produce a report to present your findings. Now, talking about a report to present your findings thematically. Again, you need to talk to your supervisor to confirm some of the things, especially on the format. So if you have proposed that you will code inductively, it's fine. You will then present your findings in such a way that the themes have emerged in your data. But then even if you are doing it deductively, you can also follow the same thing. But sometimes there is a need for you, especially for those who are doing many dissertations. Sometimes there are instructions that you need to present your findings thematically, but as per research questions. So instead of having those themes, you will have research questions, and within those research questions, that is when you will present your themes linking or rather linked to the research questions. I have seen sometimes for those who are doing stratified samplings where you have different groups in your sampling. Maybe you were interviewing professors, admin staff, and so on, or families. Sometimes your promoter can request you to present per family, thematically, but per family. So I think when you are planning and proposing, just get clarity on that so that when you are starting to analyze, after you have transcribed, then as part of organization, you can group your documents in Atlas.ti accordingly to how you are going to analyze. This is very important. You need to get it right because it will also assist you not only with presenting data, but then the next step when you will be discussing and analyzing. So the structure and format, sometimes people present their finding first, and then secondly, they will discuss and analyze. Sometimes we see people who present their findings thematically and then they discuss and analyze. So when you are presenting your findings, you are telling us a story thematically on what you have found out from your participants, and you present your findings the way you have found them. Now, the next step on discussion and analysis, it's one step up where you unpack what your results mean, where you can interpret, but most importantly, to align them with the literature review and your theoretical framework. So here you will compare and say, okay, these are the things that I got. These are the results that I got. This is what I have from my participants. And this data, how is it aligned with the literature review? Is it confirming literature review? So you will then highlight the similarities, the differences, the contradictions, within your own data set, but then also with literature review. And this is where we will see the contribution of your study. Where you will be adding new knowledge, it will come from this section. So it is important that you get the structure and format and agree with your supervisor on how you will be doing it. And you need to confirm before analyzing in Atlas so that you can organize accordingly. Now, how do you, this is a big question. How do you integrate thematic analysis with Atlas.ti? So I talk about those 6 steps. And I am going to talk about those 6 steps again, but then in line with Atlas.ti. So visualization, where you have to be familiar with the data that you have collected. So going to Atlas.ti, and I will go now to demonstrate this. You have interviewed, you have transcribed, and now with Atlas, it allows you to import those transcription in the software itself. So even in the software, you can be able to read and reread and highlight important messages and passages. And let me rather go through all 6 of them, and I will go into Atlas to show how this integration is possible. By generating initial code, you saw in that short clip how you can generate the code and how you can make those things in colors. Okay, that was manually, but in Atlas you can also do the same thing. You can also allow, you can also assign different colors to different codes. So you can, whatever you can do in manual, you can also do it in Atlas, but then I think it will be more organized for you. So with Atlas coding features, it allows you as a researcher to create and apply code to segments of data, that is quotations. And these quotations you can copy and paste to your Word document when you are sharing and presenting your findings. So that's how simple it will be for you. So all these 6 steps, you can go through them and see how easily it can be integrated within Atlas.ti. So that is why I was emphasizing here. Even reviewing the themes, defining and naming the themes, it can allow you to rename the theme that you mistakenly labeled and so on. And when you are producing the reports, there are outputs that you can produce, the document reports, code reports, quotation reports, theme reports. You can also generate the drawings and so forth that can help you with your writing. So before I go to the benefits, let me just demonstrate this for you. So you will see that after you have transcribed, you can load this document into Atlas.ti, and as part of organization, you can group them accordingly. As you can see, these are expert, lay people, the documents, literature review, and the videos. So this is how you can group this thing for you. Where I was talking about coding and attaching the segments to the code. For example, you are an interviewer. And okay, maybe first thing first, working in this document. So there is an option for you to edit. So if you click this, you can see you can play around anything and amend accordingly. So if it happened that you didn't manage to clean your transcript or any other thing, Atlas.ti will allow you to do that. Now, say you are asking your participant, how will you define sustainable lifestyle? and they are responding. A sustainable lifestyle is one that seeks to minimize negative impacts of human activities on environment, while supporting so and so and so. So you will then highlight this segment and code accordingly, which you can say definition of sustainable lifestyle. We have dedicated workshop for coding, so I'm just briefly showing something. So you can see that you have coded the segments, and there is a provision where you can make some comments on this code. So if there are any other nodes that you have, you can draft them here, and they will be attached to this code. If there are any other notes that you have done when you were interviewing the participant, you can also write some notes that will be attached to your participant. So Atlas.ti give you that privilege. So whatever you do, you can work strictly in Atlas.ti. And with the quotations, if you look here, we will have this code. So if you click on the code, you will see there is verbatim quotation that is a quotation aligned to this code. And while you are presenting your findings and feel that, okay, I want to use this quotation from this participant, you can easily copy it and use it. So when you are presenting your data, you can share your story and say, okay, participants, maybe you want to emphasize something, then you can use this verbatim quotation. So this is how easy it is. And if there are some notes attached to this quotation, they will appear. There will be like this icon here. So you can easily go back to your code and read on those notes so that you can beef up your discussion and analysis. So this is how you can integrate in Atlas.ti. So there are some benefits, because it helps you to manage your data and how to organize it. And you can have a streamlined process for coding. Visualization tools, again, you can generate diagrams. Maybe even before you present your data, you can already see how you are going to present these themes and the codes and the sub-themes. And another benefit, most important one, is that you can collaborate in Atlas.ti. So I know some of the students, you prefer to outsource the services for various reasons. It's fine. But then you can work with your co-coder in Atlas, or you can invite your supervisor in Atlas so that they can see whatever thing that you are doing. And I just want to show you quickly for those who might have started. So when you go into Atlas.ti, the online one, I think the online one, it's easy to collaborate compared to the desktop one. So this is the online one. You will log in. Get into your project. So at the settings here, project settings, you will see there's an option on your team. So this is where you can go and add new members. So you just type in their email address, their name, last name is optional. But then if you have their email address, whether it's Gmail, my Unisa, my Life, any email, they will get an invitation in their inbox, and they will be seeing all the documents that you have loaded, all the codes that you are working on, the quotation and the themes and so on. So this is one of the big benefits of Atlas.ti. Let me go back to, I will be done now so that we can address questions that may come up. So yes, I just wanted to show you this collaborative feature and the challenges, because there are some challenges that you need to consider. So you should be cautious not to let the software drive the analysis for you. And what am I saying? Because we talk about those 6 steps. So with the AI features and some advanced features, it is easy to be tempted to allow the software do everything for you. You can do the AI coding, and this thing can just code everything for you, yeah, in 2 minutes. So you should be very cautious. You should know those steps and follow them accordingly when you are also integrating it in Atlas.ti, especially for those who are starting, yeah, the novice researchers. And we know that it takes time and training, but that is why we are here to ensure that we support you accordingly to address these challenges. And advantages of thematic analysis, it is advantageous because it is flexible. Flexible meaning that you can apply it across various paradigm positions that I've indicated. And in terms of accessibility, it is really easy and quick method to learn and do. And the way you will be presenting your results thematically, even a layman or a person who's not educated can follow through those themes and what you are saying. So they are also useful for when you are working in participatory research, where you might use transformative research paradigm, where you are collaborating with a lot of people. You can give them access, you can code together, where you have stratified sampling. Then it will be easy for you to organize your documents accordingly. Yeah, this is in Atlas. It can be easy for you to highlight the similarities and differences according those stratified groups and so on. But most importantly, when you are familiarizing yourself with the data, sometimes it can lead you to surprising or anticipated insights that you have not considered, prior analysis process. So with reading and rereading, it is a useful step to do. Now, limitations. Well, in the literature, there are some researchers that is saying with thematic analysis, there is lack of information, which I don't agree with. They are saying it is not easy for novice researcher. While it is an easy method to follow, but then some scholars are saying it can be harder for novice researchers. But like I said, we are here to make sure that even as novice researcher, you feel confident on how you are applying this. And because of its flexibility, sometimes it can lead to inconsistencies. That is why when you are doing your data analysis plan, you need to involve your supervisor so that you can be aware of what is expected for you step by step when you start to analyze. And limited interpretative power. Again, with this one, I show the structure that you can start by presenting the themes, then it can be followed by discussion and analysis. Well, in terms of claims that it doesn't allow you to make you to report on language use, I think you can include that section in your discussion and analysis, where you might be doing some language linguistic studies, or you have been analyzing focus groups. You can include those sections, and after you have presented your data. Time consuming, yes, it is time consuming, and with practice you will get it right. So these are the best practices. You must maintain your journal, ensure that you are coding consistently. What am I saying here? You find that you have 10 transcripts. Then the first one, you see that there are 50 codes. The second one, you have 5 codes. So you have to be consistent and code accordingly. Collaborate with your team members. This is your supervisors for you. If you are in a research project, invite your team members so that you can all code. If you are outsourcing your services, make sure that they invite you to this project. Always, as a student, as a novice researcher, seek feedback and peer review. And I am encouraging you now to go through those 6 steps, the theoretical one, and apply them when you are using Atlas. Now, as part of conclusion, there are special considerations for ensuring that there is rigor and quality. And you know that in qualitative research, because there's no issues of reliability and validity, sometimes there are questions on quality. So while you are analyzing thematically, make sure that you follow these steps to ensure that your analysis have rigor and is of high quality. So thoroughness, coherence, trustworthiness of data, reflectivity. So again, this one talks to your own axiologies. So you might be doing a study on abortion, and because this is flexible, you need to be aware of your own assumptions, and because they might influence the way you will be presenting your data. But if you are aware and you are aware of your biases, it can really be helpful. Now, in conclusion, yes, thematic analysis is a valuable qualitative research method for identifying and interpreting patterns in contextual data. And I am emphasizing this. You can analyze text, you can analyze audio or video or any other format. And integrating thematic analysis with Atlas.ti can enhance the efficiency, the depth of your analysis, and the transparency on your analytical process. So this talk to the dependability, which is one of the legs of trustworthiness of data. So by leveraging on Atlas coding, developing these categories, the visual, and using all the features, you as researchers can systematically organize and explore your data, which will lead to rich and rigorous thematic insights. And the warning here is that you must be mindful of the potential challenges and ensure that the software supports rather than dictates the analytical process. So even when you are using these AI features, you should know the logic behind thematic analysis, and hence I am encouraging you to really go deep into the theoretical part, and so that you can integrate easily in Atlas.ti, especially for those who are doing PhD. As part of your oral exam, you have to defend your studies. So if you let the software dictate your analysis, then yeah, a problem will arise. These are material that I use, and I think I'll go back and check if there are any questions before we close.